Back to the daily grind with the only free MMA channel that fucking matters, full-time MMA. And Michael Bisping versus George St. Pierre is targeted for UFC 217 at Madison Square Garden. And what I'll say is Dana White said the ship has sailed on this fight, but Dana White came right back around and said the ship has fucking turned around and sailed back. That's fucking hilarious. He said the ship is sailed, but it turned around and sailed back. Oh, that's fucking funny. Tyron Woodley sailed the ship back. He turned the sail around. He turned the sails around because Tyron Woodley came out and got booed out of the arena for the third time in a row, which sucks because Tyron Woodley is one of my favorite fighters, but you can't deny the obvious that his fights are not the most entertaining fights. They can be boring, so you can't be mad if the fans don't want to see another boring fight in Tyron Woodley versus George St. Pierre, because that's exactly what that would be. Tyron Woodley has shown he doesn't care about entertaining the fans. He would rather keep his belt. And when it comes to the entertainment business, Dana White wants to see some entertaining stuff. This is what Dana White had to say. He said Michael Bisping will fight. Michael Bisping will show up and fight. Listen, when you break a record for the least number of punches thrown in a 5-round fight, when you beat it and it was like 130 and these guys only throw about 60 or something, that sums it up. If you get booed out of the arena, that's not good. That's not how you make your money. If people don't want to watch you, that's a bad sign. And that's true. And I mean, Woodley he knew this was going to happen. I'm sure he's going to come out and say it's some racism or some crazy shit. He's going to complain about something, but I mean, for one, Dana White told him he was getting the George St. Pierre super fight. So, yeah, of course you can expect complaining out of Tyron Woodley because he's known as a drama queen / complainer. So, of course, he's going to complain about this. But I don't care about Tyron Woodley's complaining here. I'm more concerned about Robert Whittaker because Robert Whittaker took out Jacare. Then he went and took out Yoel Romero in the interim title fight. Now he's got the interim title, and he's still getting skipped over with the interim title. So I don't know how this fight's going to happen. This will be new to me. If Robert Whittaker, the interim champion, still doesn't get the title fight for the fact that he got injured, Dana White said we're going to wait on Robert Whittaker to heal up and he'll be fighting Bisping. But it looks like Robert Whittaker's going to be getting punished for Tyron Woodley's actions. Well, I mean, it's not Robert Whittaker's fault. If anyone has the right to complain here, it's Robert Whittaker, not Tyron Woodley, because Tyron Woodley came out, and this is the third time he's got booed out of the arena. I mean, I'm a fan of Tyron Woodley. He's got potential to knock someone out like the Robbie Lawler fight, but it's only if you play into his game. Robbie Lawler was circling to the left when Tyron Woodley knocked him out with the overhand right, and that was playing into Tyron Woodley's game. Tyron Woodley's not going to play into your game, so what happens when an entertaining fighter starts playing into Tyron Woodley's game? What happens when Tyron Woodley gets to fight Robbie Lawler or Donald Cerrone? And that would be normally an entertaining fight, but what happens if they decide to, no, I'm not going to walk into Tyron Woodley, kind of like Tyron Woodley did to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm not going to circle to your left, and I'm just going to sit back until you try and take me down or something. I mean, I don't know. It's not looking good for Tyron Woodley here, and he doesn't have many legs to stand on, because I'm a huge Tyron Woodley fan, and I'm not happy with his performance last night, because in the 4th and 5th round, I felt like he could have turned it up a little bit. He was already sweaty. He didn't have to worry about being dry and getting choked out from Damian Maia's jiu-jitsu. He'd already stuffed over 20 takedowns going into the 5th and final round, and he didn't turn it up. He never turned it up. He never tried to finish Damian Maia. He never tried to take Damian Maia down for some ground and pound. Even in the 5th round, after you stuffed all these takedowns, he was still scared of Damian Maia's jiu-jitsu. He didn't try and take him out. He tried to throw a cup combos and overhand rights, but it wasn't enough to make it an entertaining fight. As Dana White said, the least strikes thrown in a 5-round title fight history. That's insane. And in the 4th and 5th round, even as a Tyron Woodley fan, I didn't like that shit. I was like, come on, man, you got to do something. The fans are booing, you're still not caring. What's the worst that can happen? Damian Maia scores 1 takedown on you out of 23? What's more important, your perfect takedown defense versus Damian Maia, or entertaining this fucking arena full of these millions of fans watching this fight? And Tyron Woodley was keeping his belt. So, Tyron Woodley tried to keep his belt because that's where the money is, but at the same time, he lost the money fight because no one's going to clamor for Tyron Woodley versus George St. Pierre now. Because even though George St. Pierre, I would like to see him fight the welterweight champion, and I would like to see Michael Bisping fight the middleweight champion. Tyron Woodley fucked that up here because nobody wants to see George St. Pierre versus Tyron Woodley after this. It's going to be Tyron Woodley defending George St. Pierre's takedown all night, and it's going to be a really boring fight. Even though I believe Tyron Woodley would beat George St. Pierre, it would be a boring fight. Therefore, you can't clamor for it. So, the big loser out of this whole scenario is Robert Whittaker. The winners are Michael Bisping and George St. Pierre. It seems like no matter what Dana White was saying to the media, to the public, They were planning on fighting the entire time. They were agreeing to fight. They've been trying to get this fight together, and they've been calling it. It's really been cringy, man. This George St. Pierre versus Michael Bisping fight. They were talking stuff about each other. Now that they want to get the fight together, oh, I respect you as a champion. Yeah, I was just talking trash to sell the fight, but I would love to fight you. This is good news if you want to fight me too. Like, it's cringy how these guys are begging to fight each other, and they're gonna get their way. So, man, one bad thing about this again is Michael Bisping still will be fighting George St. Pierre, which is not a middleweight contender. This will be 3 title fights for Michael, 2 title defenses for Michael Bisping, where he didn't fight against a top middleweight contender, which is unfortunate because Michael Bisping won the title from Luke Rockhold, and some people say, you know, Luke Rockhold deserved the rematch. He didn't get that. Michael Bisping went on to fight Dan Henderson, the ranked number 13 guy. He controversially beat Dan Henderson. He had more output, but Dan Henderson did more damage. So he beat Dan Henderson, who wasn't a real contender at middleweight. Then now he's going on to fight George St. Pierre, who's again not a contender at middleweight. George St. Pierre's never fought at middleweight before in his life in the UFC. And now, since Michael Bisping's the champion, he'd rather fight Bisping than Woodley. So he's going up to fight Bisping because that's also the bigger fight. So yeah, man, I'm not mad at the situation here. George St. Pierre versus Bisping targeted for UFC 217 at Madison Square Garden. Only loser here is Robert Whitaker. I'll say that again. Make sure you hit thumbs up, hit subscribe. It is what it is. I'm about to fucking start working on this studio. I already said that last fight, but I seen this last video, but I seen this and I had to get to it. So follow me on Snapchat. I'll be updating it on there. It is what it is. Let the others know what the fuck you time at in the comments, dude. Can a kangaroo jump higher than a house? Duh, a house doesn't jump.